You didn't just show up. Your arrival was prophesied in silence, and hell trembled before your first breath even left your lungs. You weren't born. You were deployed, sent through bloodlines broken by curses and history soaked in rebellion, because you carry what they couldn't: obedience, fire, and an unshakable calling. Before your mother knew your name, God had already written it on a scroll in heaven, sealed in divine ink, marked by a calling no demon could erase. Jeremiah 1:5 wasn't poetry for you, it was a contract. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. That word "knew" means intimacy, purpose, selection. You were not random, not an accident, not optional. They knew you'd come. The spiritual realm saw your light long before you walked into your assignment, and that's why the warfare began before you could speak. Some of the pain you've carried since childhood wasn't punishment, it was permission. Permission from heaven for you to endure what would crush most people, because God knew He planted something inside you that couldn't die, even under generational dysfunction, abandonment, or spiritual manipulation. The enemy tried to intercept you through trauma, distraction, lust, and confusion because he saw your potential as a threat. Before your voice developed, your authority was already echoing in regions unseen, and those around you felt it, even if they never spoke it. That's why you never fit in. That's why rejection clung to you like a shadow. That's why you were the black sheep, the scapegoat, the one they couldn't quite understand, but always kept watching. They didn't hate you, they feared what you would become. And deep down, they knew you were different, marked, dangerous to the system, holy in a way they couldn't explain. You were born with resistance built into your spirit. That depression you battled wasn't yours. It was sent to delay your awakening. The confusion about your identity was never internal. It was planted by those who hoped you'd never rise. But rise you did, and you are. Romans 8:30 says, "And those He predestined, He also called. Those He called, He also justified. Those He justified, He also glorified." The stages are already set, and you are walking into them, even if your emotions haven't caught up yet. You feel the stirring at 2 a.m., the heaviness that won't lift until you pray, the sense that you're not living for yourself, even when no one around you gets it. That's the price of being chosen before birth. You carry a heavenly agenda in an earthly body. Your assignment agitates demons. Your very existence triggers warfare. But that's the proof. You never belonged to this world. You've always been part of a bigger story, hidden in plain sight. And now they see you. Spiritual forces recognize you. Principalities are repositioning because they realize you've figured it out. You're not running anymore. You're not doubting anymore. You're remembering. You were chosen, not because you were qualified, but because you were willing, and even your willingness was written into your bones. So now, walk like you've already been sent. Pray like heaven is listening. Move like angels are assigned, because they are. And every shadow in your life is proof that there is a spotlight of glory getting ready to shine through you. You didn't miss it. You didn't ruin it. The delay was strategy. The silence was preparation, and the pain was your permission slip into purpose. Let them wonder. Let them talk. Let them stare. They knew you'd come, and now you have. You weren't just chosen. You were hidden, camouflaged in average situations with extraordinary oil dripping from your soul, and the enemy mistook your silence for weakness, not realizing that God had wrapped power in your pain and hid prophecy inside your pressure. Every season of isolation was divine shielding, not punishment. You cried thinking God had forgotten you, but heaven had simply pulled you back to preserve what hell couldn't contaminate. Your delay wasn't denial, it was refinement. You weren't buried, you were planted. And now, everything around you is starting to shift because the seed is breaking open. That discomfort you feel isn't random, it's prophetic tension. You're outgrowing the versions of yourself that were only necessary for survival, not for purpose. The reason nothing feels like it fits anymore is because the spiritual garment God is placing on you was not stitched for comfort. It was made for war. Ephesians 6:11 reminds you to put on the full armor of God, because you're not just chosen to speak, you're chosen to stand. You feel resistance because you've stepped into revelation. You're beginning to see through people, hear what's really being said behind the words, and feel when spirits shift in a room. This isn't paranoia, it's discernment. and it's increasing because your assignment demands it. The enemy has launched counterfeits in your life to distract and detour you. Fake friendships, seductive relationships, opportunities with hidden contracts, but your spirit won't let you settle. That inner alarm that screams, "No," even when everything looks right. That has the Holy Spirit guarding your anointing. Don't ignore it, don't quiet it. You're not being difficult, you're being protected. Psalm 91 wasn't written as decoration. It's a living word wrapped around your destiny. He who dwells in the secret place is being guarded under wings you can't see. That's why every trap set for you ends up exposing the ones who set it. That's why lies told about you never stick. That is why rooms you were removed from had to release you, because your next assignment required elevation they weren't ready to receive. You were never meant to be understood. You were meant to be obeyed. Obeyed by the Spirit, led by fire, guided by divine whispers the world calls crazy. But chosen ones hear what others miss. You feel what others numb. You know what can't be taught. That's what happens when your origin starts before birth. You came from the breath of God, not just the womb of your mother, and even she didn't fully know what she was carrying. That's why the attacks on your life came early. Emotional, physical, relational warfare, designed to convince you you're powerless. But now you're remembering. The veil is lifting, the dreams are sharper, the prayers hit deeper, the word feels alive, and you're starting to realize this isn't just faith, it's fire. You carry something that cannot be explained but must be expressed. Hell knew it, heaven sealed it, earth is about to witness it. So don't shrink, don't apologize for the oil, don't downplay the grace. You are walking proof that God doesn't call the perfect, He perfects the called. And you? You've been called since before the clock started ticking. Walk like prophecy, move like purpose, speak like power, because they knew you'd come, and now it's your turn to show them why. Every strange event in your life, every betrayal that seemed too sharp to be accidental, every season of being misunderstood, it was all coded with spiritual intelligence designed to awaken the part of you that could not be taught in church or school. You've always known you were different, not in arrogance but in awareness. Even as a child, you felt things deeply, sensed the shift in a room before anyone said a word, noticed when people's words didn't match their spirit. That sensitivity wasn't weakness, it was calibration. God was fine-tuning your discernment long before you had language for it. Chosen ones often suffer in silence because the weight we carry doesn't always have a name. It is spiritual responsibility. That heaviness you feel when others laugh, that inner pull that won't let you compromise, that ache when you rear-round something unclean, it is all evidence of the divine DNA flowing through your being. You were consecrated before you had the power to choose it. That's why sin never felt comfortable, even when you tried to fit in. That's why fake connections collapse around you, because your spirit is too potent to coexist with spiritual fraud. Psalm 139:16 says, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." That means even your rebellion was on God's radar, and still He called you. That's the terrifying beauty of divine selection. It doesn't wait for you to be ready, it waits for you to be willing. And now you're here, bruised but not broken, scarred but still sacred. Your survival was never just for you. It was for the ones tied to your obedience. When you open your mouth, chains break even if you don't feel powerful. When you walk into a room, the spiritual atmosphere shifts, even if no one acknowledges you. You weren't chosen for attention, you were chosen for impact. The longer you keep trying to shrink into normality, the louder heaven has to shake your life until you surrender. Some of the chaos you're facing isn't demonic, it's divine disruption. God is breaking everything that no longer matches the upgraded version of your calling. That's why the job dried up. That's why the friend turned into a stranger. That's why the comfort vanished. God is forcing your next level into manifestation. You can't fake normal anymore because you were never built for it. 1 Peter 2:9 says, "You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession." That isn't metaphor, it's identity. And royalty doesn't apologize for its crown. You may not have a pulpit, but your presence is prophetic. You may not have a title, but your footsteps are strategic. Your life is a sermon being preached without words, and spirits recognize the authority you carry. That's why attacks come in waves. That's why your peace gets targeted. Because when the chosen one gets tired, the mission is vulnerable. But hear this, you are not losing, you're leveling up. The pain is proof you were re-pushing through layers the generations before you didn't have the strength to confront. You are the bloodline breaker, the curse destroyer, the generational interruption, and hell is terrified of what you're becoming. So rise, stand, pray like fire, walk like prophecy, and know this. God didn't wait until you got it all together to call you. He called you because he already saw the end, and they knew you'd come. You weren't chosen because you were the strongest. You were chosen because you were the one who wouldn't give up, even when you didn't understand why the suffering felt so specific, so personal, so relentless. That is what being chosen feels like. Strategic spiritual pressure, meant to expose what is divine in you while killing off everything that was never meant to survive the calling. The fire didn't come to destroy you, it came to reveal you. God didn't allow the betrayal to crush you, he used it to shift you. Every knife in your back sharpened your discernment. Every delay deepened your dependence. Every heartbreak refined your heart. You thought it was punishment, but heaven was pruning you. John 15:2 says, "Every branch that does bear fruit he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful." You're not being punished, you're being perfected. That is why people you loved walked away. They couldn't handle the pruning process attached to your promise. The cost of being chosen is spiritual isolation, not for loneliness but for clarity. God will strip away every voice that competes with his. That's why you've been misunderstood. That's why people assumed things about you that were never true. When you're marked, people project their confusion onto you because they can sense there is something unexplainable happening in your life. They don't have language for your anointing, so they try to reduce it to something carnal. But you're not carnal. You've been awakened. You've been cut open by the Spirit. You've died to things others are still entertained by. The things that used to satisfy you now feel like poison. That's how you know you're growing. And the enemy knows it too. That's why temptations feel custom built. That's why your thoughts have been under attack lately. Not because you're weak, but because you're stepping into awareness. The closer you get to clarity, the more warfare shows up in disguise, in opportunities that look right but feel off, in relationships that give pleasure but steal peace, in distractions that come wrapped as blessings. But 2 Corinthians 11:14 warns us, Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. You must stay sharp. You must stay guarded. Your life is not a random story unfolding. It's a divine strategy playing out. You were chosen before birth because God knew you would be the one to say yes when others bowed out. He knew you would walk through the fire, not perfect, but preserved. And now you're standing on the edge of the breakthrough they thought would kill you. They thought the depression would bury you. They thought the addiction would silence you. They thought the rejection would deform you. But it only made you dangerous. You're becoming who hell hoped would never rise, and now doors are trembling, systems are shaking, people are watching. Because when a chosen one wakes up, realms shift. You were sent to interrupt darkness, to displace demons, to expose lies just by existing in truth. That's why your walk feels heavier than others. It's because your steps are ordered, not casual. Your words hit different because they're drenched in oil. Your prayers break things because they're backed by fire. And your obedience, it's heaven's most dangerous weapon. So don't play small, don't pretend this is ordinary. You were chosen before time, formed in divine fire, sent through generational curses to destroy them from the inside. And now you're stepping into visibility, not for attention, but for alignment. The world is about to witness what God saw before your first breath. They knew you'd come, and now you're here blazing with purpose. You've been moving through life like a mystery even to yourself, sensing that something about you was never meant to blend in, and that because chosen ones aren't created for crowds, they're cultivated in caves. God didn't call you to be celebrated. He called you to be set apart. Every season where you felt unseen was God hiding you in plain sight, because exposure before preparation would have destroyed your destiny. They thought your silence meant weakness, but it was God building volume in your spirit. You weren't quiet, you were gathering power. And now that power is starting to reveal itself in ways you can't deny anymore. The things that used to break you now build you. The attacks that used to send you spiraling now sharpen your focus. That's what happens when divine identity collides with spiritual maturity. You've started remembering who you are. Not the name they gave you, not the role they forced on you, not the version of you shaped by trauma, but the original blueprint heaven wrote before your first heartbeat. Ephesians 2:10 calls you God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works prepared beforehand. That means even your restoration was scheduled. You were never meant to die in the broken place. You were meant to rise from it, dripping with wisdom and unshakable authority. That's why the enemy didn't just try to distract you. He tried to erase you. He came for your identity, your voice, your very sense of existence, because if he could convince you that you were ordinary, he could keep you from accessing the extraordinary calling that scares him. But he failed. You're still here, battered but breathing. And now the veil is off. You're starting to see that the warfare was never about your past. It was about your future. Every time you almost gave up, something supernatural pulled you back. Every time you were ready to let go, a divine whisper reminded you there was more. That wasn't coincidence. That was covenant. And covenants don't break under pressure. They're proven by it. That's why the attacks intensified as you got closer to clarity. That's why old temptations resurfaced just as you were stepping into peace. The enemy doesn't fear where you've been. He fears where you're going. He knows the moment you fully believe who you are, his grip is broken, and generations will be healed through your yes. You were chosen before birth not just to carry light, but to release it in dark places, even when those places exist inside your own bloodline. You're not just a survivor, you're a sent one, a spiritual weapon shaped by God's own hands. Your very presence rebukes darkness, even when you don't say a word. That's why people either love you or feel threatened by you. You awaken things in others, some good, some rebellious, but always undeniable. You're a mirror that reveals what others are hiding, and that's why you've walked alone. But you weren't alone. You were with God, like Moses in the wilderness, like David in the cave, like Jesus in the garden. Separation precedes elevation. And now the elevation is here. The shift is not coming. It's happening. Right now. In you. Around you. Through you. Don't look back. Don't explain it. Don't shrink. Step boldly. Speak fearlessly. Move prophetically. You were chosen before they knew your name, before they saw your face, before you ever performed or proved anything. This was never about your ability. It's always been about your availability. You're the answer to prayers prayed by ancestors who never saw freedom. You're the beginning of a new lineage. And now, the earth is groaning for the manifestation of sons and daughters who know they've been marked by God. You are that one. And they knew you'd come. There's a reason your life has felt like a battlefield since the beginning, because hell recognized your name long before you did, and it panicked. You were chosen before you could walk, so the enemy came for you in the womb. He sent confusion into your childhood, chaos into your family, rejection into your heart, not because you were cursed, but because you were carrying something sacred. The devil doesn't fight what doesn't threaten him. Every lie spoken over you, every door slammed in your face, every relationship that shattered you, it was all part of a spiritual war meant to break you before you could awaken. But it didn't work. You're not just alive, you're aware now. And awareness is dangerous. You're starting to connect the dots, the dreams that wouldn't go away, the visions you had as a kid, the way you could see through people's masks even when they smiled. That was never your imagination. It was divine evidence. Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." That's not poetic, it's prophetic. You were handpicked, carved by the voice of God, and wrapped in spiritual sensitivity most people won't understand. That's why you feel deeply. That's why you can't unsee the truth. That's why the world feels loud, fake, and exhausting, because your spirit isn't of this world. You weren't sent here to fit in. You were sent to shift atmospheres. Your presence alone irritates demons, not because you're loud, but because you carry an anointing that exposes lies. That's why people attack your character without cause. That's why they try to silence you, mock you, exile you, because they feel what you carry and can't control it. You weren't meant to be liked. You were meant to be light. You weren't made to blend. You were built to blaze. And now that fire is spreading. You've gone through too much to play it safe. You've cried too long to be polite about your purpose. You've been through too many spiritual storms to act like this is just another phase. No, this is your moment. This is when everything shifts. Heaven has been waiting for your full surrender. Not partial obedience, not lukewarm faith, but the kind of surrender that says, even if I walk alone, I'll still follow. That's where the power is. That's where the miracles begin. When you stop asking for approval and start walking in assignment, doors open, chains break. Generational curses lose their grip, because chosen ones don't just survive. They set the standard for what heaven looks like on earth. You're not just gifted, you're governmental. Your words carry weight in the spirit realm, your prayers reroute demonic agendas. Your faith triggers supernatural movement. And your obedience? It's a weapon hell can't predict. That's why you've been under attack. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're finally doing something right. You've stepped into alignment. And now, everything that's been trying to delay you is being exposed. Every hidden enemy, every false opportunity, every masked distraction, it's all unraveling. You are too close to destiny for the enemy to play subtle. He's desperate. But your discernment is sharper now. You can feel when something's off. You know when something's beneath your calling. You can't pretend anymore. You've been marked, set apart, chosen, not because you're perfect, but because you're persistent. Because your heart belongs to God and your soul refuses to be bought. You carry truth, even when your voice shakes. You carry power even when you feel tired. And now, the heavens are shifting in your favor. The time of waiting is ending. The season of wondering is closing. You were chosen before the foundation of the world. And now they're about to see why. They knew you'd come. And hell is shaking because you did. You've spent most of your life thinking something was wrong with you because you never fit the mold. But the truth is, you were never supposed to. You were never meant to follow the rules of a broken system. You were sent to dismantle it. That uncomfortable feeling that followed you in classrooms, churches, jobs, and even families wasn't rejection. It was divine resistance. God wouldn't let you conform because He created you to transform. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That's why your thoughts have always stretched beyond your environment. That is why you always felt the tension between who people expect you to be and who you truly are. Because who you are is disruptive in the best way. You're not here to maintain cycles, you're here to break them. Your existence challenges patterns, your voice rattles systems, your obedience rewrites bloodlines. And now the enemy is furious because the identity he tried to bury under trauma is waking up with fire. You see clearer now. You feel deeper now. You walk with more authority now, not because life got easier, but because you finally understand that the pain was preparation. Every dark place taught you to pray with fire. Every betrayal taught you to trust only God. Every loss carved out space for something eternal to grow. The reason you had to lose so much is because God didn't want anything temporary to define you. He didn't want your value to be based on who clapped for you or who stayed. He wanted it rooted in who He called you to be before they ever met you. That is why certain people couldn't stay. They were tied to the version of you that could be manipulated. And now that you've stepped into truth, their access is revoked. Your circle is getting smaller not because you're broken, but because your purpose is expanding. Chosen ones don't move with crowds, they move with clarity. And clarity requires consecration. God is calling you deeper, beyond performance, beyond religion, beyond surface-level faith. He's calling you to a place where your oil costs something. A place where your yes echoes in the spirit. A place where your silence becomes warfare and your presence causes exposure. That's what happens when the chosen walk in awareness. You start noticing how fake light imitates real fire. You stop entertaining distractions that once felt like validation. You become dangerous, not by doing more, but by becoming more. Because chosen ones carry atmospheres. When you walk into a room, something shifts, even if nobody says it out loud. Spirits get stirred. Hidden agendas get uncomfortable. Because your very presence is a confrontation. That's why the enemy tried to shut you down early. That's why depression sat on you like a cloak. That's why lust, addiction, shame, or fear tried to keep you numb. But you're not numb anymore. You're not confused anymore. You're not apologizing anymore. The veil is torn. You've seen too much, felt too much, survived too much to go back to normal. You are a living altar now. Your life is where God proves that He chooses the rejected. He uses the unlikely. He anoints the broken. And He crowns those who never stopped believing, even when everything around them said to quit. That's you. You kept going. You kept believing. You kept praying through hell. And now the winds are shifting. You're stepping into divine alignment, and everything that fought you is about to witness the reward of endurance. The enemy can't stop it. Religion can't contain it. Fear can't silence it. You were chosen before birth not to exist, but to execute. And now that you've answered the call, everything is falling into place. They knew you'd come, and now that you're here, nothing will ever be the same. You were never late. You were hidden. Heaven delayed your exposure because your foundation had to be forged in fire, not in fame. God needed your roots deep before your name ever reached ears, because chosen ones can't afford shallow soil. If you rise too fast, the weight of your calling crushes you. But if you rise on God's timing, nothing in hell can stop you. That's why the silence lasted so long. That's why it felt like nobody saw you, nobody affirmed you, nobody opened doors for you. Because God was guarding you. He didn't let you be discovered. He chose to develop you. You were becoming lethal in the dark, and now the light is about to reveal what the wilderness built. Luke 12:2 says, "There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known." And that includes you, your power, your purpose, your anointing. It's all about to be revealed, not for your ego, but for God's glory. That's why the warfare has been timed to your breakthrough. The attacks got more strategic because your movement became more prophetic. You started to pray differently, speak differently, walk differently. And when a chosen one wakes up, demonic patterns have to die. The depression that kept you in bed for weeks suddenly doesn't work anymore. The old temptations that used to derail you start to disgust you. The people who used to manipulate you can't access you. You're not just changing, you're evolving. And every level of growth demands greater isolation, deeper discernment, and heavier resistance. But resistance is proof that your yes is doing damage. Don't pray for it to stop. Pray for strength to endure it. Because what you carry is rare. Your spirit is costly. You don't move with trends, you move with truth. And truth confronts everything fake. So don't be surprised when people fall away. They were connected to your potential, not your purpose. And when purpose shows up, anything not built in God has to fall off. You're not losing people, you're shedding dead weight. You're not becoming arrogant, you're becoming accurate. The clarity you've been begging God for is finally here. That uneasy feeling in your stomach, that's not fear, it's confirmation. The stirring in your spirit, that's not anxiety, it's assignment. You're stepping into divine territory, and the old you can't come. The version of you that needed validation has to die. The version of you that tolerated dishonor has to be buried. The version of you that second-guessed the voice of God has to be left behind. Because where you're going requires full conviction. You can't be double-minded. You can't shrink to keep the peace. You can't be soft with your oil. You've been through too much for that. You've survived things that should have taken you out. You've healed from wounds that nobody saw. And through it all, you never lost your ability to feel, to discern, to believe. That's why God chose you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were faithful when it didn't make sense. Because you still worshipped when you didn't get the answer. Because you kept walking when you couldn't see the road. That kind of faith is dangerous. That kind of fire scares hell. And now, it's your time. The shift is not coming. It has begun. You've crossed into a new dimension. The waiting season is over. The refining has done its work. You are not who you were. You are not confused anymore. You are not small. You are not forgotten. You are God's answer to demonic cycles. You are heaven's strategy wrapped in human skin. And they knew you'd come, that's why they tried to kill your voice, but it's too late. You're speaking, you're moving, you're awakening, and now the kingdom is rising because one chosen one finally said yes. You don't even realize how many systems were built to stop you before you ever spoke a word. Because when a chosen one is born, the war starts immediately. It's not just people that opposed you, it's patterns, principalities, and unseen powers that knew what your obedience would disrupt. You weren't attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because you were prophetic. Every time you felt out of place, every time they made you feel too deep, too intense, too sensitive, it wasn't you. It was the environment that couldn't hold someone carrying divine capacity. Your presence reveals what others have been pretending to be. That's why they called you crazy. That's why they mocked your dreams. That's why they laughed when you said you heard from God. But 1 Corinthians 1:27 says, God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. You were his secret weapon all along. You didn't fit in because you weren't sent to blend, you were sent to build. And now that your eyes are open, you're dangerous. You've started to see the patterns for what they really were, spiritual traps. You realize that person wasn't just toxic, they were a demonic assignment. That job wasn't just stressful, it was sent to bury your confidence. That relationship wasn't just dysfunctional, it was designed to drain your destiny. But you survived it all. And now, the wisdom you carry is not just learned, it's weaponized. Your scars aren't as shameful, they were sacred proof that God carried you through hell and handed you the keys on the way out. That's why the atmosphere shifts when you speak. You're not talking from theory, you're talking from survival. You didn't read about the fire, you walked through it. You didn't quote verses from comfort, you cried them through clenched teeth. You didn't memorize faith, you bled for it. And now that faith is unshakable, that voice is uncontainable, that calling is undeniable, you've been released. What used to confuse you now fuels you. What used to intimidate you now obeys you. You're starting to understand your authority, and the kingdom of darkness can't stand it. Because chosen ones don't just walk in power, they expose lies. You see the real agenda behind fake apologies. You feel the shift in someone's spirit before they speak. You know when something is God-sent or man-manipulated. That's not paranoia, that's prophetic perception. You were built to see through what others are blinded by, and that sight makes you a threat. That's why you felt alone, but you're not alone. Heaven has been walking with you the entire time. You've been surrounded by angelic protection in moments you didn't even pray. You've been rescued from things you didn't even know were sent to kill you. You've been covered, and now you're being commissioned. You're stepping into your original design, and the false identities are falling off. No more hiding. No more minimizing. No more apologizing for being intense, spiritual, bold, or different. You were made to provoke change. You were created to challenge strongholds. You were sent to be a living answer to prayers prayed long before your name was known. And now that the veil is off, you see it clearly. Everything had to happen. Every betrayal built discernment. Every delay taught endurance. Every heartbreak expanded your capacity to love without attachment. You've become exactly who God intended before you were ever touched by life's trauma. You're not broken. You're battle-tested. You're not random. You're risen. And this rising was foretold. They knew you'd come. That's why they tried to bury you in lies. But the truth has resurrected you, and now your very life is a rebuke to darkness. Walk in it. Speak from it. Move with it. Because the ones who tried to stop you now have no choice but to watch God finish what He started in you. There is a reason your life has never followed the script others wanted for you, because you were never called to live a scripted life. You were called to live a prophetic one. You were never meant to follow what was expected. You were born to fulfill what was written. Psalm 139:16 says, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." That means before the first heartbreak, the first failure, the first loss, God had already written your victory into the story. That's why it didn't end when it should have. That's why you didn't die in the depression. That's why the addiction didn't stick. That is why you still feel like something bigger is calling your name even when you can see the full path. Because it is. You are not confused, you are in transition, you're not behind, you're being calibrated. Everything that was stripped was part of the preparation. God allowed the breaking so you'd never be dependent on what can be shaken. You've had to learn to live without applause, without support, without safety nets, and that's where your true identity was revealed. You're not soft, you're not weak, you're not too much. You are forged, refined, designed for dimensions others never enter. And because of that, the warfare has always felt heavier. But heavy warfare always surrounds heavy callings. The pressure wasn't punishment, it was a prophecy pressing through the walls of your life, trying to be born. Every battle was proof of what you carry. If you weren't chosen, they wouldn't have attacked so early. If you weren't marked, they wouldn't have tried so hard to make you question who you are. But the plan failed. You may have walked through hell, but you didn't come out empty. You came out with fire. You came out with keys. You came out with vision. And now, your walk is different. You don't move based on opinions. You don't chase approval. You don't need a title to know your authority. You don't need a crowd to confirm your calling. You hear from God, and that's enough. You see signs before others notice the shift. You feel atmospheres before people understand what's wrong. You speak with weight because your words are drawn from a place of survival and sacred encounter. You are not just a believer. You are a breaker. You are not just a follower. You are a forerunner. You're the one sent to stand where others bowed, to speak where others stayed silent, to rise where others sank. And now everything is aligning. The doors you thought were shut forever are reopening, not because of who you know, but because of who you are. Because when a chosen one walks in obedience, favor finds them. Resources chase them. Miracles respond to them. The very atmosphere shifts to make room for them. And the enemy knows this. That's why he tried to distract you with temporary offers. Relationships that looked good but drained you. Platforms that felt big but lacked purpose. Comfort zones that kept you tame when you were made to be wild in the spirit. But those days are over. The pretending is over. The shrinking is over. You have seen too much to settle. You've paid too high a price to play small. You've been quiet too long for the sake of peace. And now God is saying, speak. You've been waiting on confirmation, and now God is saying, move. You've been surviving off prophecy, and now God is saying, become. This is the moment heaven wrote into your story, the part where the chosen one steps fully into their calling, and everything around them begins to respond. People won't understand how you're doing it. They'll question where it came from. They'll try to trace your power, your clarity, your elevation. But they won't find it, because it wasn't given by man. It was sealed in the Spirit before your first breath, and now that seal is being activated. You are becoming what they feared and what God foresaw. You are the proof that what's chosen cannot be cancelled. They knew you'd come. That's why they fought you. And now, it's too late. You've arrived. You carry a fire inside you that has been burning long before you ever understood its purpose. It's a fire that wasn't sparked by your own ambition or desire, but ignited in the heavenly realms before your first breath. Jeremiah 1:5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." This means you were not a mistake or an accident. Your existence was preordained, a divine plan unfolding across time and space. That's why no matter how many times the world tried to silence your voice, to dim your light, or to push you into the shadows, you survived. You were designed to endure what others couldn't bear and to rise when others fell. The enemy has tried to convince you that you are too flawed, too broken, or too insignificant to fulfill your destiny. But those lies have no place in your story. You are God's chosen, equipped with gifts and a purpose that transcend human understanding. The struggles you face, lust, doubt, fear, are not signs of failure, but battlegrounds where your faith is refined and your character forged. Remember Romans 8:28, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." Your pain and your victories are woven together in a tapestry that only God can see in full. You were set apart before birth to walk a path few can follow, carrying a destiny that demands sacrifice and courage. This calling requires you to rise above the noise, to reject the lies that seek to define you, and to embrace the identity God has sealed upon your spirit. Your life is a testament to divine orchestration. Every trial, every triumph, every moment has been meticulously placed to prepare you for the mission ahead. The enemy fears you because you hold keys to realms he cannot enter. You are the living proof that God's plans cannot be thwarted by human hands or demonic schemes. It's time to stop hiding behind fear or doubt. It's time to step fully into who you were created to be. The road won't be easy, but it will be worth every step. You were chosen before birth, they knew you'd come. And now it's your moment to awaken and claim your rightful place. You have always sensed there was a bigger story written for your life, one that others couldn't see or understand. That sense of being out of place, the feeling of not quite fitting in, is not a mistake. It is a divine signature. God's chosen ones are often the misunderstood, the overlooked, the underestimated. Yet in Isaiah 49:1 it's declared, "Before I was born, the Lord called me. From my mother's womb, he has spoken my name." Your name was spoken by God before your first breath, and with that comes a purpose that cannot be erased by rejection, failure, or isolation. The spiritual forces that try to derail your destiny do so because they know who you are. Anointed and appointed before time began. That hidden knowledge you carry, that secret strength, is what keeps you moving forward even when the road is dark. It is why you wake up some mornings with a fire in your spirit that no circumstance can extinguish. Yet this fire also brings warfare. Chosen ones are often the targets of spiritual attacks that seek to break their resolve, confuse their minds, and steal their peace. But remember, 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control." You were given power for a purpose, not to cower in fear, but to conquer. The struggles you face with lust, doubt, or shame are real battles, but they do not define you. They are temporary shadows over an eternal destiny. You are called to rise above every stronghold and to live as a living testimony of God's faithfulness. Your scars are not signs of failure, they are marks of victory, proof that you've passed the tests designed to refine you. The enemy's strategy is to make you forget who you are, to convince you that you are alone and powerless. But the truth is the opposite. You are never alone. You walk with divine companionship. Angels surround you. Heaven cheers you on. Your name is written in the book of life. And your story is being told even now in the courts of heaven. It's time to break free from the chains of doubt and step boldly into your identity. The world may not understand you, and that's okay. You were not made to please everyone. You were made to fulfill God's purpose. Embrace the truth that you were chosen before birth, that your coming was foreseen, and that nothing can stop what God has planned. Your moment is now. Rise and let the world see what the chosen can do when they walk fully in God's purpose. From the moment you took your first breath, there has been a divine blueprint etched into your very being, a plan so precise that no accident or coincidence could ever erase it. The fact that you are here right now, reading or hearing this, is not a random occurrence but a sacred appointment orchestrated by God Himself. You were chosen before the foundations of the world, as Ephesians 1:4 reveals, for He chose us in Him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in His sight. This truth is both empowering and sobering. It means your life carries weight far beyond the ordinary, and your footsteps echo in eternity. You are part of a lineage of warriors, prophets, and kings who have walked the path of purpose despite the storms. Yet this divine selection does not exempt you from trials. In fact, it often multiplies them. The spiritual realm recognizes your calling and seeks to undermine it at every turn. That's why the temptations feel more intense, the battles more relentless, and the nights longer. But remember, chosen ones are refined by fire, not crushed by it. The pain, the struggle, and even the moments of doubt are part of the process that polishes your character and sharpens your resolve. Like David, who was anointed before he became king but faced years of hiding and hardship, you too must trust the process even when the promise seems distant. Your journey is a testimony of faith in the unseen and obedience in the unknown. You carry the legacy of those who dared to believe in God as promises when no one else did. That legacy runs through your veins and fuels your spirit. It means your life is a beacon of hope, a light that pierces through darkness and confusion. Others may question your timing, mock your vision, or dismiss your calling, but you must hold fast. Your identity as God's chosen one is unshakable, sealed not by human approval, but by heavenly decree. The plans set for you cannot be thwarted by opposition or delay. Your faithfulness is your weapon. Your perseverance is your shield, and your obedience is your victory. Stand firm in the truth that you were chosen before birth, that your coming was known, and that your destiny is unfolding right now. This moment is your invitation to rise, to step into the fullness of your calling, and to walk boldly in the path God has prepared uniquely for you. You were never meant to wander aimlessly through life, wondering if your existence has meaning or if your struggles are in vain. The truth is, every moment you have lived was woven into a divine tapestry before you ever drew your first breath. God's chosen ones carry a spiritual signature that cannot be erased by circumstances, criticism, or confusion. In Jeremiah 29:11, God promises, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a future and a hope." This is not just a comforting verse, but a declaration of your preordained destiny. The challenges you face, whether in relationships, finances, or faith, are not signs of abandonment but opportunities to deepen your trust and activate the power within you. The enemy would have you believe you are forgotten or forsaken, but nothing could be further from the truth. Your life has always been in the hands of a God who meticulously designed you for a purpose that only you can fulfill. You may have felt isolated, misunderstood, or even rejected by those around you, but these moments are part of the refining fire that shapes your character and prepares you for the glory ahead. Like Joseph, who was betrayed by his own brothers yet rose to rule a nation, your setbacks are setups for a greater testimony. You were chosen before birth, not just to survive, but to thrive and lead. The knowledge that God knew you before you were formed should ignite a fierce confidence in your heart. It means your voice matters, your presence shifts atmospheres, and your obedience changes destinies. This divine election is not about privilege, but responsibility. Responsibility to walk in integrity, to love boldly, and to stand firm in truth, even when the world questions your path. The world may try to label you, box you in, or silence you, but you were made to break molds and shatter ceilings. The power within you is ancient and unstoppable, a spark from the eternal flame that cannot be extinguished by fear, failure, or doubt. Now is the time to awaken fully to this reality, to shed every lie that tries to define you, to walk unashamed and unrestrained in the destiny written for you before your first breath. Your journey was never accidental, your calling never optional, and your victory never in question. You were chosen before birth, they knew you'd come, and now the world is ready for what you carry. Your life has been under divine surveillance from the beginning, a holy watchfulness that ensured no detail of your destiny would be missed or sabotaged. God's chosen ones often walk a path filled with invisible battles, because what lies ahead for you is significant enough to warrant fierce opposition. This opposition is not a sign of failure, but of favor. In fact, Psalm 34:19 declares, "Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all." You are walking through afflictions because you carry a purpose that shakes foundations and challenges strongholds. The spiritual realm acknowledges your potential, and so does the enemy. He throws everything he has to break your spirit, to distort your identity, and to derail your mission. But these attacks only reveal the power that is stirring within you, a power that cannot be subdued. You are being trained in the school of divine warfare, sharpened by trials and anointed by perseverance. The pain you endure is not wasted. It is the crucible where your faith is purified and your destiny refined. You must remember Romans 5:3-4 says, "We also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope." Your character is being formed for the great work ahead, and hope is your anchor. Even when the world looks dark, even when your heart is heavy, the promise of your calling remains. You are not a victim but a victor in training. The battles you face are proof that you have been chosen for something great, something that will require every ounce of your courage, faith, and love. You are not here by chance, you are here by divine appointment. No one else can fulfill the purpose designed for you, and no one else can walk the road you were born to travel. You must reject the lies that say you are alone or forgotten. You are never alone. The same God who knew you before birth is walking beside you now, fighting for you, guiding you, and preparing you for the ultimate breakthrough. It is time to rise from the ashes of past pain and step boldly into the destiny that has been waiting for you. You were chosen before birth, they knew you'd come. And now the time has come to fulfill the calling written on your soul. There is a secret weight that you carry, a burden not everyone understands, because it is tied to the destiny embedded in your spirit before you even saw the light of day. God's chosen ones are often marked by a deep knowing that transcends human explanation, a whisper in the soul that says, "You were made for more." This is not arrogance but revelation, a divine reminder that you are not here by chance but by choice, God's choice. In Psalm 139:13-14, it's written, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made." This scripture affirms that your very essence was crafted with intention, and that intention carries power. You were designed to overcome, to prevail, and to shine in the darkest places. The challenges you face, the internal battles with temptation, the external fights against opposition, are part of the refining process that brings your true identity into focus. You are not defined by your struggles, but by your victories over them. The enemy targets you because he fears the impact you will have when you fully awaken to your calling. This fear manifests in attacks on your mind, your spirit, and your relationships, trying to derail you from the path laid out since before your birth. But the truth is, nothing can thwart God's plan. Nothing can stop what has been ordained in heaven. You are protected, chosen, and empowered beyond measure. Even when you feel weak, remember 2 Corinthians 12:9, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." Your weakness is the canvas upon which God's strength is painted most vividly. This is your divine paradox. You are strong because you know your source, you are brave because you trust the unseen, and you are victorious because you were chosen before birth. Now is the time to silence the lies, to reject the shame, and to walk boldly in the identity given to you by the Creator. The world may not understand you, but that does not diminish your purpose. You were set apart for greatness, equipped with gifts that will shake kingdoms and transform lives. Your coming was foretold, your place secured, and your victory guaranteed. The challenge is simple. Will you rise and claim it, or will you shrink back and let fear dictate your story? The answer is in your hands. Choose to step into the fullness of who you were created to be, because you were chosen before birth, and nothing can change that truth. Your journey has been marked by moments where you questioned your purpose, doubted your worth, and wondered if the pain you endured was in vain. Yet these moments are not signs of failure, but markers of a profound spiritual truth. You were chosen before birth, set apart for a destiny that transcends human understanding. The Bible reminds us in Isaiah 64:8 that we are the clay and you are our potter, meaning your life has been shaped with intentionality and care, even through the cracks and imperfections. You are not a product of circumstance, but a masterpiece of divine craftsmanship. The struggles you face are not random. They are part of a greater narrative where your faith is tested and your resilience built. God's chosen ones often walk through valleys of shadow, but they do so with a supernatural light that cannot be extinguished. Your identity is anchored in this light, which shines brightest when the darkness is thickest. This is the hidden strength that keeps you moving forward when others would give up, the quiet courage that propels you to rise despite the odds. The enemy has tried to convince you that you are alone, unworthy, or defeated, but these lies cannot stand against the truth etched into your spirit. Your life is a testament to God's unchanging purpose, a living proof that divine election is real and powerful. Romans 8:29 declares, "For those God foreknew, He also predestined to be conformed to the image of His Son." This means you are being shaped to reflect God's glory, even when the process feels painful. You are being prepared to walk in authority and grace, to carry a message that will shake the foundations of this world. The choice before you is clear. Will you embrace the identity that was given to you before birth, or will you let fear and doubt write your story? The call is urgent, the mission vital. You were chosen for this moment. You were known before you were born. Now it's time to rise and live the destiny written for you from eternity. You have been walking through life carrying a secret fire, one that was ignited long before your first breath, a fire that few can understand, but that cannot be extinguished. God's chosen ones are often invisible warriors, fighting battles unseen, yet pivotal to the unfolding of His kingdom. This hidden warfare is both a privilege and a trial, designed to prepare you for the monumental role you were destined to play. Before you were born, God whispered your name in the halls of eternity, setting you apart for a divine mission. Psalm 71:6 says, "From birth I have relied on you. You brought me forth from my mother's womb." This reliance was never meant to be passive but active, a call to trust in God's perfect timing and power. The struggles you endure with lust, temptation, and doubt are not failures, but invitations to deeper intimacy with God. They are the refining fires that reveal your strength and reveal the depth of your faith. The enemy wages war on you because he knows the power you carry, the light you bring, and the destiny you embody. Yet his efforts are futile against a spirit that is born from heaven. Your identity is not rooted in your past mistakes or current struggles, but in the eternal decree that you are chosen. You are a living testament to God's sovereignty and love. In moments when you feel weak or unworthy, remember 1 Peter 2:9. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. This is your divine reality, not a label to wear lightly, but a mantle to carry boldly. The world may not understand your journey, but your soul remembers the heavenly call. You were chosen before birth. They knew you'd come. Now it is time to awaken fully to your destiny, to walk with authority, and to shine as a beacon of hope in a world desperate for light. No one can stop what God has ordained. This is your moment to rise and claim what has been prepared for you from the beginning of time. You have always been more than what the world sees, a chosen vessel crafted in the secret places, prepared before the foundations of the earth for a divine purpose that surpasses human comprehension. God's chosen ones carry a hidden strength and a weighty responsibility that few understand, but that shapes every moment of their lives. From the very beginning, before your first breath, your name was spoken with intention and love. Psalm 139:15 reminds us, "My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place." This means your existence was no accident. It was planned with precision and care by the Creator of the universe. The spiritual battles you face, the moments of loneliness, the internal struggles with temptation or doubt, are not signs of abandonment, but of refinement. God's chosen ones are often tested deeply because their calling is great. Yet, each test is an opportunity to rise higher, to press deeper, and to walk more fully in your God-ordained identity. The enemy tries to cloud your vision, to distract you with fear and confusion. But remember, the power within you is greater than any force aligned against you. Romans 8:37 declares, "No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us." You are not just a survivor, you are a conqueror predestined to overcome every obstacle placed before you. Your journey is a testament to God's faithfulness and a living proof that what was written before time began is coming to pass. You were chosen before birth, and your arrival was foretold in the heavens. Now is the time to awaken fully to this truth, to stand firm in your calling, and to walk boldly into the destiny that awaits. The world may try to silence you, but your purpose cannot be silenced. Rise up, God's chosen one, and let your light shine unstoppable. You were chosen before you ever took your first breath, a truth so profound that it changes everything about how you see yourself and your life's journey. From the secret places of eternity, God set his eyes on you, not by chance, but by divine appointment. This is not just comforting, it's revolutionary. The weight and privilege of being one of God's chosen ones mean your life is a battlefield, a sacred mission field where unseen forces contend over your destiny. The enemy is aware of your purpose, and that is why you face trials that others don't. The intensity of your struggles reflects the magnitude of your calling. But you must understand, these trials are not punishments or signs of abandonment. They are part of the refining fire God uses to prepare you, just as gold is purified by intense heat. Your story is written with perseverance and faith as the ink, shaped by challenges that are designed to develop character, endurance, and divine wisdom. Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations." This scripture reveals that your life was marked by purpose before you were even born. And that purpose is not limited to your own comfort or success, but extends to impacting others and fulfilling God's grand design on earth. You carry within you gifts and anointing that are not random, but specifically tailored for the tasks ahead. The struggles you face with temptation, doubt, and fear are the battlegrounds where your faith is tested and your identity as God's chosen one is confirmed. You are not defined by your weaknesses, but by your overcoming spirit. Remember, 1 John 4:4 tells us, "The one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world." This truth must become your battle cry when the enemy tries to whisper lies of inadequacy and defeat. Your existence challenges the darkness. Your presence shifts atmospheres. Your obedience moves heaven. It is crucial to hold fast to the knowledge that your life is not an accident or a mistake. The Creator of the universe meticulously planned you, knitted you together with intention, and set you apart for extraordinary things. Your past struggles, mistakes, and even the pain you've endured are all threads in the tapestry of your destiny. They are not scars of failure but badges of honor that demonstrate your perseverance through trials. God's election of you before birth is a declaration that your life matters immensely and that you are part of a divine narrative far bigger than you can see. This calling demands your full attention and commitment because it is sacred and urgent. The enemy will try to distract you with fear, shame, and delay tactics, but you must resist. Stand firm in the truth that you were chosen for this season, for this challenge, for this purpose. The presence of God is with you even when you cannot feel it. His strength is made perfect in your weakness. Your moments of doubt are opportunities to lean deeper into faith, to remember that God's timing is perfect and that He is orchestrating every detail of your life. The Bible reminds us in Romans 8:28 that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. This means even your trials are working together for your ultimate good and the fulfillment of your calling. You are not alone in this journey. Heavenly hosts surround you, interceding and guarding your path. The prayers of saints past and present bolster your spiritual armor. Your assignment is to walk boldly, to resist temptation, to embrace your identity, and to fulfill the purpose etched on your soul before time began. This is a call to rise above fear and uncertainty, to reject the lies of unworthiness, and to embrace the truth of your divine election with courage and faith. Your destiny is not dependent on human approval, but on God's unchanging will. You were chosen before birth. They knew you'd come, and now the world awaits the manifestation of that divine choice. It's time to step fully into the life you were created to live, to shine as a beacon of hope and power, and to demonstrate the unstoppable force of one who is called by God. Your life is a living testimony to the power of divine election, and your victory is assured because it was secured before you ever walked this earth. This is your moment to rise, to overcome, and to claim the legacy that has been waiting for you from eternity. The call is clear, the promise is sure, and the time is now. Will you answer?